The Fan.
And the man in charge of acquiring that lineup depth in recent days joins us right now. Padres President of Baseball Operations, General Manager A.J. Preller, back with us here on 97.3 The Fan. Good morning, A.J.
Morning, guys.
Good morning to you. We missed you at spring training. I know you were busy, had a lot of potential moves, but good to catch up with you now. Early part of the season after another big acquisition in Luis Arráez. How did that all go down?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we've talked here at the end of spring training and throughout. We talked about, looking at potentially adding a starting pitcher and then, left-handed bat, and I think we prioritized it in that order.
I think Arráez is one of the most fascinating guys in baseball.
And a few different lefty bats that were out there that our scouts and our staff's been evaluating, and ultimately, just kept having conversation with the Marlins over the last few weeks, and they were in a spot where, I think they were looking to kind of change up what they were doing, and have some players in our system that they had a lot of interest in, and we were able to line up on the deal.
We got in and out there for a second, AJ. If we have to dial you up again, we'll check on this next answer. I think Arráez is one of the most interesting guys in baseball. I love watching his skills, but there are certain talent evaluators who feel like he's not that valuable because he doesn't hit for power, not necessarily plus defensively or base running. How do you view Luis Arráez as a complete player when you were kind of evaluating what you'd be willing to give up for him?
Yeah, I mean, I think for Luis, he's obviously been, he's one of the tougher outs in the game. He's incredibly productive in terms of putting the bat on ball, getting hits, which is important for sure. Contributing to your on base and kind of setting a tone for your team. And, just again, like moving the baseball, it's something we do really well as a team. It's been part of our identity so far in the first month of the season. And it's just another, super quality bat that can move the baseball around, set a tone for our club. He brings tremendous energy. And I think you just have to look at last year with the Marlins. Like he helped that team get to the playoffs, and he did it by getting a ton of hits. And I think if you talk to their staff, talk to Skip Schumacher, they'll talk about, how the quality of player he is and what kind of hitter he is and what he meant to their team. And I think we're hoping for a similar effect with us.
Talking to Padres GM and President of Baseball Operations, A.J. Preller here on Ben and Woods this morning. One thing that I know you've noticed and Mike Schultz noticed and all the fan base has noticed too is just the better contact that your team is making right now. And look, it's made up of a lot of the same guys. Jerks and Profar certainly right now looking like an absolute steal. Kudos to you on that move, bringing Jerkson back. He really loves playing here. But was that something that you guys talked about going into the season of, look, we're striking out too much in high leverage situations. We're not getting those runs in. Was that like something that you guys tried to drill into the guys early in spring training?
I think it's a combination of a few things. I mean, I think, obviously there's a lot of different ways to score runs. And, I think I think the biggest thing is you try to fit your philosophy to your team personnel all the time. And that changes depending on who's on your team. So I think with Jackson Merrill being on the club this year, he's a guy, again, that can put bat on ball and can play situational baseball. Luis Campusano getting more time. With men in scoring position, he's another guy that's got the ability to make contact and kind of do what the game calls for. Victor Rodriguez and Schulte and Mike McCoy and Pat O'Sullivan on the offensive side, something they've preached from day one. And obviously kind of learning from last year, in terms of just being better at runners in scoring position. And obviously now acquiring Luis and Donovan Solano. So I think that's, again, some different faces. It's definitely us looking at last year and knowing we've got to make some adjustments. And then it's, and definitely like the coaching staff drilling home, this concept of winning baseball. Everybody talks about it, but, they've been really, really preaching it, making sure that our players are, holding themselves accountable to that. And I think we've seen some good things from it so far early in the year.
I don't know if you've listened to the 97.3 The Fan Roundtable that Adam definitely does not force us to do on Thursday, AJ. An extra hour of commercial-free Padres talk. But Ben brought up last week, who's been the biggest surprise for you, positive surprise? And I'll ask the manager as kind of their boss. For you, who is somebody that this year you're looking at him going, man, I'm very, very happy with the work that they've been putting in and, of course, obviously the results.
Yeah, I think kind of like unsung hero, in terms of like so far, Tyler Wade. And I think, it seems like when he's in the game, something positive happens, and he brings energy, and he's been able to help our club with the bunt game, and kind of having a tough at bat at the bottom of the order, and then playing different spots. So, again, I think he's somebody that's been in the big leagues before, but a California kid that's come home, and ultimately is. I think he's contributing, and I think it just speaks to, again, it's 26-man roster, and you've got to have your top players perform at a high level, and then get some contribution from different guys on the roster. We've seen quite a few of them. I could highlight probably 5 or 6 other guys
Sure.
right now. But with Wade, he's done a nice job for us in that utility spot and filling in for Manny, and kind of doing what the game calls for.
He is in the middle of things.
No one said Tyler Wade in the roundtable.
Nobody did.
That?
Nobody said Tyler
New
Wade.
perspective from AJ Preller there.
That's exactly right. He is seemingly in the middle of these weird plays and ends up, helping score a run or push one across. So that's an interesting one.
AJ, when you brought up Donovan Solano, right-hander, Eggy got sent down to AAA, which makes sense, righty for righty. But I wanted to ask you about Graham Pauley's playing time and the opportunities that don't seem to be there for him right now in the big league level. Is that something you guys are going to need to address? Essentially, I'm asking is he getting better just by sitting on the major league roster right now, but not getting a chance to play?
I mean, ultimately, we decided, we made the deal in the trade, but in general, I think for Graham going down and playing right now and getting that bat, so he's ready for another opportunity. And I think, there's all different ways to develop. I think, at the end of the day, you need to play. But I also think there's some value in seeing the big leagues, getting a taste of it, kind of getting a sense of the competition and the level. And now he goes back down to AAA with that knowledge. He's an incredibly smart person, incredibly hard worker. And I think he's going to make the most of that opportunity. But I think just seeing it, being around the big leagues, even though it was some limited opportunity from his standpoint, that's a tough role to break into the big leagues with. The guys do break in that way. I think it'll serve him well, because I think he's somebody that can sit back, kind of process everything, and now know what adjustments he needs to make at AAA and get some regular at bats, so he's ready to help us. We know we're going to need him again here this year. Maybe sooner rather than later, but it gives him a chance to go down and play and be ready for the next opportunity.
AJ Preller joins Ben and Woods this morning here on 97.3 The Fan. Wanted to get your assessment on Matt Waldron, maybe Johnny Brito, Vasquez, those guys. You talk about maybe needing Graham Pauley down the road, certainly, and has put some really good swings on balls. And you see some flashes of brilliance, really, out of all those 3 pitchers I just named. I know that you're probably looking for more consistency from each of those guys, but what has been your assessment to this point? Look, I don't even have to ask you if you're looking for pitching. Every GM's looking for pitching. We know you are. Everybody is. So what has been your assessment of the guys that you have, those 3 guys right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, like, you're looking at guys that are continuing to develop, in Brito and Waldron. They got opportunity last year at the big league level, and I think they're continuing to learn and grow, and there's going to be some growing pains from that standpoint. So, I think with Brito, I think he, in spring training, he performed very well, and as we've gotten to the year, I think, ultimately the pitch mix, the ability to command the heater, that's always been his strength. Is throwing a lot of fastball strikes with the changeup, kind of getting to a consistent breaking ball has been a little bit of a challenge for him so far. And again, he's kind of had, his the ability to, he's kind of filled in when we've needed him, and filled some different roles so far for us. And I think getting into a consistent spot with all of his pitches, definitely his breaking stuff, kind of getting that pitch mix down and getting into a role that I think he's able to learn from and grow with and be consistent with. I think that'll be, part of his deal. And then I think with Matt, again, like the knuckleball, we've had, there's been some moments of, some really good games, the Giants and Dodger games earlier this year. The last couple outings he struggled with it, and kind of, how much he blends the knuckleball with his other stuff. And that's all part of him learning and growing as a big league pitcher. I think for us, like, for any team, it's not just our situation this year, our roster. You've always got to have, guys from your system and ultimately come up and contribute, some guys from internal. I think the nice part is, we've seen some guys like, Jeremiah Estrada, both at AAA and the big leagues, and now Adrian Morejon that, are interesting, and they keep getting better. So, I'm not sure exactly who or what. I know we've got, we've got some numbers and depth, and we've got some guys who are going to give opportunity to. And I think if we're going to be a very competitive team, those guys are going to take that opportunity to step up and keep getting better. And some of the flashes we're seeing, they're going to make them more consistent.
Yeah, speaking of those internal options, what are you looking for in terms of when you'll know a guy like Robbie Snelling or Adam Mazer or Bergert is going to get that opportunity on the big league level?
Yeah, I think those guys, they tell you, usually just by their performance, and usually it's more just the consistency aspect. I think right now those guys are all, holding their own or more than holding their own at the AA level, the three you mentioned. They're definitely on our radar. They're guys that we're monitoring all the time, both for their development and then also their ability to help at the, and progress, whether it's the AAA or the big leagues. But they usually tell you, and they all have their player plans, things that they're aware of what they've got to work on. That if they get to that spot, they'll be able to come up and help at the big league level. And hopefully as we progress into the summer, they continue to master those things, get more consistent. And you look up and we've got 2 or 3 more options to this big league team, and those guys are very talented. So I think they're on that track, and hopefully we're having more of that conversation here in the next couple of months.
Talking to A.J. Preller here, and one thing that Luis Arráez and Donovan Solano gives Mike Schilt is a little more depth and options. We were just talking about before you came on for the daily starting lineup. I know you've talked about that holistic approach. How do you kind of envision going forward and making sure that everybody's getting at-bats, getting some time in the field, getting some time off, and how that kind of rotation could work among your kind of regular infielders in the lineup, especially with the newcomers?
Yeah, I think that's the situation we're looking for, is where it's a lot of quality players, and we have the ability to over 162, whether it's to overcome an injury or, keep guys rested and keep guys fresh and hungry. And again, I think that's it's the strength of Mike's is being able to manage that group. And we've got a lot of guys that give us some versatility and can move around the field in general. I mean, I think, being able to take guys off their feet and give a guy a DH day, we'll be able to do that with the infielders and also with a Profar or Tatis from time to time. So, and I think we'll be able to, again, like I mentioned with, right now the way the bench is set up, Wade is your utility infielder that can play all over, Zokar in the outfield, Higgy or can't be catching, and then, a Solano or somebody else that's on your bench. Even a day like today where Schilte's, against the lefty is resting a few of the guys. You look up and we're going to have some ammo, for later in the game. And I think that's a good recipe in terms of, trying to win over 162.
Last one for me, AJ. AJ Preller joins us here on Ben and Woods this morning. Give you the opportunity to maybe calm the fears potentially of the fan base out there worried about Joe Musgrove and how he's doing right now, and kind of what you're expecting back from him, and what's the nature of his pain and suffering right now.
Yeah, so I think from his standpoint, some tricep tendonitis and I think some. I guess posterior elbow joint. I think it's honestly about being more cautious. We did this with Darvish a few weeks ago, and I think again it's been more towards the eye on the long haul and the long season. So we take it serious anytime somebody's on 100%. But I think it's more in that bucket. At least this specific case with Joe is, hey, give him a couple days and just be smart for the season, because we're gonna need Joe for this year if we're going to be successful, and him and Darvish, making sure that they're, pitching in a spot where, they're the best versions of themselves, and also give some other guys opportunity. So, again, with this one, it's more towards, you never know from the injury standpoint, but it's more geared towards, use your time on the IL, get close to that 100% level, and hopefully be back here in a couple of weeks against Atlanta. Looking
around baseball, pitching injuries, it's got to be the hardest part of your job. You can't really control it. You can try to put as much depth, but when they happen, they kind of happen. It's got to be a nightmare for you, AJ.
It's definitely like you need pitching to win. You got to draft and trade for pitching, and then obviously like the injury factor comes into play, at least, and it's come into play a lot here in the last few years. Not throughout the whole industry, you see it every day. It feels like. So it's that's that challenge, is like to be able to trust and rely on on your pitching staff, but you just need to also keep keep drafting, keep trading, keep doing everything you can to try to turn those odds in your favor. And I think for us, just being, trying to be very cognizant of guys, where they're at and where they're feeling, and hopefully that helps us get through the season.
All right, I lied. I have one more. Now that we've got, now he's here and he's talking, he's open and talking about the pitching injuries and stuff. And we spent hours talking about it. We talked to several experts in the business too. I mean, you're seeing guys every day and evaluating and hoping that, when you make a move for a guy, he stays healthy. And what do you attribute a lot of this to? Do you factor the pitch clock in and things like that, or is it the high velo guys are the ones that are going down? Kind of where do you stand on that when you're trying to evaluate the next move?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes the past injuries are somewhat of a predictor of, guys that have been banged up a little bit and have some prior injury history. It's tough. Like, obviously, there are not too many teams that seem to have the answers right now. And again, it's not a Padre issue; it's an industry issue that, I'm sure baseball is spending a lot of time looking at. I know we are as an organization. I'd probably put more towards kind of the training and the nature of the training, and how guys are kind of, the way they're definitely short burst, explosive movements, big velo, big stuff, max out. It feels like that's probably the biggest switch in kind of pitching philosophy over the last 5 to 10 years. But again, guys are going and they're getting a lot of information, talking to obviously doctors and surgeries, and becoming more prevalent at a younger age. We're seeing it all the time on the amateur level. And I think it's something that if you as an organization can be ahead of that curve, it's extremely valuable. And I just think just for the game, I think it's something that the game we need to figure out, because you want to see the top guys get on the mound and pitch, and it just shouldn't be like a war of attrition by the end of the year who's left standing. You want to look up and see these supremely talented pitchers and athletes out there pitching, and the health factors becoming a big issue in the game these days.
AJ, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time. And by the way, thank you for Mike Schilt. We're definitely big fans and have enjoyed his weekly appearances with us on Fridays.
It's great. No, enjoy it. Thank you guys, and let's go get one again tonight.
That would be nice. AJ Preller, Padres president of baseball operations and general